Thank you for joining another episode of She Constructs. I'm here this morning with Technically a Tech. You may know her from Instagram. That's where I found her, and I'm so excited to have you here this morning. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor really to be here with you.
I am so excited for you to share with us what you do all day long when you're at work. So I'm going to let you jump in, and then I'm going to ask some questions along the way.
Awesome. Yeah. So I work in environmental consulting. I've been in the field for about 3 years now. I do a lot of work with environmental assessments, really, is what we do. So there are a few different types of environmental assessments. We've got a phase 1 and a phase 2. There's also a phase 3, but that's rarely done, so I won't really go into that. But essentially, that's the main idea. That's the core of my work, phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments. For phase 1s, we usually go into a site and we do a walkthrough. It's a lot more observation. And we kind of point out things that might be contributing to contamination of the land or of the groundwater. So if there's oil leaks or chemical leaks somewhere, we note things like that. If there's a lot of chemical storage on a site, things like that. Then we also take a look at historical records. So we'll review old environmental reports that the client has, or we'll take a look at satellite images to take a look at how the land use has changed over time, and we can see, oh, this is a very new development, or oh, this has been an industrial area for a very long time. There is likely to be a lot of contamination. So yeah, we kind of just take a look at these flags that we raise, and we say, oh, okay, this could be something of concern, this could be something of concern. But we never really conclude there is contamination. We always say that these things are likely causing some contamination on site, so we should do further assessment. And that's when then the phase 2 environmental site assessment comes in. And this assessment is way more hands-on. We drill into the ground and we take soil samples, and then after we take groundwater samples, and then we actually send those to the lab, and the lab does their analysis on them, looking for metals or whatever contamination it is that we think we're going to find. And then we're able to make some more concrete conclusions about what's going on.
That's really awesome. What kind of schooling did you take to fall into this circle of work?
Yeah, so I studied, I did a Bachelor of Science, and it was a specialization in biology. So I took this it was very general. I had to take chemistry, biology, physics, maths, environmental science. So because it was a very general program, I was able to take a lot of different things that may or may not have interested me. And I learned very quickly, ooh, I really don't like this, or, oh, hey, for example, with my environmental science classes, I realized, wow, this is super interesting. I had not considered a career in the environmental field, and I'm going to continue to pursue it just because the professors were great, the classes were really interesting, and had I not been in a general program, I likely never would have gone into the environmental field. I originally wanted to be a dentist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so quite different. Now, I graduated with a Bachelor of Science, but I do like to make sure people know that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to this career. I work with engineers, I work with geoscientists, environmental scientists, techs. Like, I work with people that went to university and college. And once you get into the profession, that's where you learn everything. So there's no need to stress about, oh, I need to take this class, I need to do this. There are some things that are more beneficial. For example, I have a friend who did a college program that was specifically environmental engineering. And so she had a really good background of the work that we do that I didn't have. But the nice thing is that you go into the job, and that's where you learn the tasks that you have to do. So.
Oh, that's great news for people that are kind of like trying to figure out what they want to do. And I always try to tell people, especially my kids are teenagers, that you don't always know what you want to be, but you have to pick something that you're interested in so that you can keep discovering, right? And that sounds like that's exactly what happened with you. And so you're the perfect story for me to share with them. How many women do you work with typically during the day?
Yeah, so surprisingly, I was shocked during my interview when I walked into this office for the company that I work for. There are a lot of women in my company. Now, that's not really the case for the whole environmental engineering industry, but in my company, I don't think we're split halfway, but we're close. There are quite a few women as techs that work for my company. Now, when I'm on site, it's rare. I unfortunately don't see that many women, and I don't, when I'm at construction sites, for example, or when I'm just at a client's, I usually show up and people say, oh, they didn't, like I've had actually people say, oh, why aren't they sending a boy? And I'm like, I'm here, sorry to disappoint. Yeah. So it is rare to find women, but it's not, it's rare to find women, but it's not unheard of. So I do see women here and there that will kind of appear out of the wild, and I'll always make a point to say, hey, it's so nice to see another woman here, and they always share the same sentiment. So I think whenever you spot a woman, you always make that little connection.
I think I saw either it was on your social feed or another woman's social feed where it was like, you're a woman on job site, we're now best friends.
I shared a little reel on my Instagram.
Your Instagram is so fun. And I think when I found you, it was like you were having these little discussions and talks about PPE and your clothing and getting the right fit. And I kind of talked about this a little bit before, but it would be great to have someone like yourself explain the importance of the proper fit of PPE and sometimes the hardship of trying to find the right fit.
Yeah, this is a topic that I'm personally really passionate about. I think that there are many levels to this issue and this topic. So people think that I'm making a stink about it because I just want to look it on site. And this is a part of why I talk about it, because if I feel good and I look good, I'm not thinking about my year, right? I'm thinking about the work I have to get done. So yes, it is part of it that I do want to look good while I work. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nope. But one of the main issues is safety. The reason we wear PPE and the safety apparel that we wear on site is because it's there to keep us safe. Now, if it doesn't fit us properly, we're taking it off, we're not wearing it properly, and it's doing the opposite job of what it was meant to do. Mm-hmm. So I've tripped over my boots many times. I had one time where I was in a really, really muddy area and my boots were sunk almost to my knees, like halfway to my shin. And so it was very difficult because the boots didn't fit properly. My foot kept slipping out, and I actually my foot slipped out at one point and I stepped into the mud with my socks because my boot was stuck in the mud, right? Whereas my male counterparts, for example, like they were also having major issues walking, but their feet they weren't falling around while they were walking. Mm-hmm. So safety is the number one issue. I've heard of women, you can get caught in machinery, women that work with machinery. Like if you've got flaps hanging around, the sleeves are too long, you can get caught in machinery, and that's really dangerous. So safety is the number one issue that's why it's so important to have gear that fits. But another thing, like I mentioned, is that sort of sense of belonging, right? If I'm showing up on site with clothes that are much too big for me, I feel really silly. And I feel like I said in one of my posts, I feel like I'm at bring your kid to work day. It's difficult for someone to take me seriously if I don't look professional and if I don't look like I belong. So yeah, there are many layers to this issue and I feel really passionate about it. And I talk about it on my Instagram quite a bit. And things are changing, especially in the realm of steel-toe boots. Like there are so many boots out there now that are made for women, which is really awesome. But now I think different apparel brands are taking notice, and I have noticed a lot more women's options. Now the issue with that too is that a lot of women's gear is not very good quality. One, so it costs more money because it isn't mass produced to the scale that men's clothing is. So it's costing more. The quality is not as good, and it's pink, right? So that's also a big issue that most women are saying, like, I don't want pink, purple, and butterflies on my boots. I just want boots that fit me well.
Right.
So, and that's a whole other issue of being taken seriously on site, right? Some women love the pink, and that's great. Some women love wearing the pink hard hat. You know, they like standing out in that way. But I think a lot of other women already feel they stand out so much on site, and they just want to be at an equal playing field with the clothes, at least, that they're wearing.
Right. Right. I know, like, there's been times when I've worn PPE that doesn't fit right either. And it is, I mean, I don't know for the work that I was doing at that time that it was putting me in an unsafe position, but it was definitely distracting, right?
Yes.
Like, you're just like, it's just rubbing under your armpit, or it's like, right? And you're right. When you feel like your clothes are way too big and you feel like a little kid because you've got, you know, your big hand-me-downs, it's not confident building at all. And when you're already struggling to be taken seriously because you're expecting a man to show up on the site, and then you show up, you know, with clothes that are too big, it's just, I can totally vision that and empathize for you and be like, come on, right? Like,
yeah, definitely. And I think it's difficult to describe the feeling of getting pants that fit you well. Like, I remember the first time I got site pants that fit me, I'm not kidding. I was jumping around at home being like, I can't wait to go to site in these pants. Like, I'm so excited. It really is life-changing. And I made one post that did really well on Instagram. I think it resonated with a lot of people. And it was kind of that idea. I actually filmed it right after I got my pants for women. And I filmed the before and the after, right? When I'm wearing the pants for men, when I'm kind of like, oh, it's kind of not the best feeling. And then when I switch into the women's, I'm like, woo, dancing around. And all the women commenting were like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. And there were a few men that were saying, I don't get it. They don't look that bad. Or I don't think, one guy said, oh, I don't think they're really meant to fit well. They just have to like do the job of keeping you safe. And it's interesting because you really have to live through it to understand, right? And it's true, the men's pants that I had, they didn't really look bad on me, but they didn't fit right. They fell off when I put tools in the pockets. They rubbed weird. They were so wide and I just didn't feel good in them, you know? So yeah, it is a very specific issue for people that have different bodies that don't fit into the typical, like, over 6 feet, over 200 pounds structure that gear is really
triangles. Right? Like, men's body shapes are just typically different than women. And this is not a surprise. It's not shocking news. It's not anything people don't already know, right? So it's actually funny because I bought a raincoat that it's great. It's a really good quality raincoat, but it's for men. They didn't have any women's at the store. And like, my second time wearing it, I bent over to pick something up, and the zipper at the bottom like ripped off the jacket because it just didn't fit my hips. Like, it didn't. Yeah. And I can't, you know what I mean? So it's those little things that having women's gear makes all the difference. And then every time I bend over, I'm like, oh, I can't bend over in this way because I'm going to rip my jacket some more, right? So it's like, we don't want to be thinking about that. We want to be doing our job. Yeah. And just being comfortable and confident in your clothes, for sure. And every woman wants that. It doesn't matter what they're doing. If you were a dentist, there's nurses all the time talking about different scrubs and how it makes them feel, right? My pajamas, right? I don't wear the ones that don't make me feel comfortable or don't make me feel happy, even if I'm laying on the couch. They're serving their function, but I don't like them as much, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You have to feel good and you have to feel confident. I'm going to keep watching your Instagram because I do love it. I do love it. Do you have a piece of advice that you'd like to share with a woman, either that's looking at getting into the industry or is in the industry, or just something you think that every woman needs to remember?
Yeah, definitely always look out for yourself and always have your best interest at the top of your list. I've had many times where, well, not many times, I shouldn't say that, but I'll give a kind of a concrete example. I worked a lot of overtime one week because there was a colleague that was on vacation, and my manager was saying, oh, just put half those hours on your timesheet for this week and then half the hours on your timesheet for next week. And I was like, okay, but then I'm not getting paid my overtime that I deserve to get paid. Mm-hmm. And so I went a little bit higher up and I just sent a very nice email. I just said, hey, just making sure that I should be writing, splitting my time between the 2 weeks. So now it's on writing that they're asking me to do this if they are asking me to do this. So I have a paper trail, very important always with any issue. And it's more difficult for them to kind of enforce rules that are being broken when it's being written down. And they said, no, absolutely not. Don't do that, right? So always look out for yourself because you're the only one that's doing so.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. People will try to take advantage or squeeze out extra time or, not get your pay in half by making you split it up. Yeah, for sure. That's great advice.
And actually, I don't know if you do have younger viewers, but like you said, your sons might benefit from this. I find that just saying, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up is really important. And I wish it was something that had been taught to me because I was too scared to say, I don't know what I want to do. So I just picked a profession that I kind of thought maybe I'd be interested in. And I don't think I would be very happy at all if I had been a dentist. So
I do agree. I think there's a lot of pressure on kids to know what they want to do and be at 17 and 18, and it's hard. And I tell my kids that all the time. I didn't know when I was 19 because I had to take a 5th year, with mandatory when you wanted to go to university back in my times. And I still didn't know what I wanted to be. And I tell them it's okay, right? And I try to tell them that they should take a general type of program like you took to discover the path that will call for them, right? And I think that's great. So I'm definitely going to make them watch this. So. Well, this has been fantastic. I encourage everybody to find Technically a Tech on Instagram. Follow her. Follow us, She Constructs. And if you want to be a guest sometime, give us a shout. You can find us at www.sheconstructs.ca. We have training coming up. We have some network things that are happening virtually right now, but hopefully as everyone keeps getting shots in the arm, we'll be able to have live events again. I know. Thank you so much again for coming on today. I so appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was lovely.